morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Paul Verderosa and Andy Sterling as we kick off another week, the second full week here of racing in January. And I thought it was a interesting card. I don't know about you. I had a lot of trouble coming up with top picks. I thought a lot of these races were fairly open.
Early on, I thought they were fairly open. I had a few horses I kind of wanted to lean on a little bit later on, but some of these races were tough to come up with. I got to thank you for something, though. I
don't want thanks. I want cash.
You want cash?
Yeah.
All right, wait a minute. Let me go back. I never knew, for anybody who didn't know, that the office to the side of us was Harvey Pax, the great Harvey Pax.
Yes, we were. Yeah, John Kakamis and I. Our cameraman.
Yeah, piece of aqueduct history I never knew.
The office is an office right adjacent to the studio, which makes sense that it would be Harvey's office next door, and it was quite a room with quite a lot of characters over the years that inhabited that room. A lot of people who, some people aren't with us at all anymore, and a lot of people that are around somewhere, but there were a lot of great characters and a lot of entertainment. I was telling a John Veach story before, and of course John passed away about a year or so ago, and John, one of my favorite people at the racetrack, and obviously a legendary trainer as well, but a lot of people inhabit that room. Nick Zito used to come in that room quite often. I got to give Nick a call. I'm sure he's down at Oaklawn Park, but also a lot of horse players.
Great
a lot
stories.
Of fun characters, yes, no question about it.
I love it.
Yeah, the legendary Jack Brown, who is also not with us anymore. And anyone that knew Jack, he was a man that he was a very, very popular man, a really terrific guy. And Jack had been the producer of the old OTB show back in the day, the Channel 9.
Okay.
Weekends,
The original, yeah.
Yeah, I met Jack in the 70s, and I used to come to the track. He used to drive me back to the city. He lived on the Upper East Side.
That's awesome.
Anyhow, we got 8 to talk about. We could go down memory lane forever, but yeah, that was quite an office. And for the few people that might be watching that had ever been in that office, I'm sure they can attest that there was a lot of great entertainment in that office over the years. Head over to Nyra Bets. If you're not a member of Nyra Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code MATCH200, and we will match up to $200 of your initial deposit. That was actually the whole marketing. That was the marketing office in there. That was the marketing wing. I don't even know what's in there now, to be honest.
A couple weeks ago, I think there was somebody floating around in there, but I don't know if it was workers.
Yeah, I'm not
but I got
sure.
a newfound respect for it now.
Well, it really is.
Yeah.
It probably should.
No, I do.
It probably should. We should probably do a feature for the show on that room itself.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
Talking about Harvey, the people there. There's so few people. I mean, John and Brielle obviously was there quite a bit. People that are still around that spent time in that office. I mean, Nick is, but Nick's not in New York in the winter, and I'll be honest with you, it's tough to think. Mitch Levitas,
for sure. He's
director,
been around,
Mitch spent a lot of time in that office, getting abused, as he does wherever he goes. Anyway, race number 1, I guess I'll start the conversation with opportunity set, and I think one of the themes of this race would be class movements. And you've got Memphis, who I have on top, Flash Kiss, who you have on top, are both moving up in class. And Opportunity Setter, we're looking at breaking his maiden 2 back, is moving down in class. On the other hand, is he really a class dropper, Paul? Because he's a horse that broke his maiden at the bottom level for 20 that Rudy was probably just a little bit overly ambitious with off of the claim.
Yeah, and Rudy was going well, too, at the time. And you figure it was probably taking a shot with that horse.
Is he not going well now? He seems to still be going well.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going well. But, I mean, when you look at this horse, I'm saying as a whole, you figure the barn's going well, you jump the horse up a little bit in class, see what happens. It was much tougher last time. This is the right spot for this horse.
It's a righter spot.
Yeah.
Whether it ends up being the right spot, we don't really know, but it's a more appropriate spot, I would agree.
That maiden win, I mean, were you overly excited about that win? I mean, he was supposed to win that day, and he ran well against that group, but I mean,
I recall moments of glee and great exultation, so I don't know, maybe I was overly excited. He's a funny horse because he's a horse that came to Chad Brown's barn, and Chad even talked about this with Maggie after he broke his maiden, and he even laughed. He said, he came in with early voting, and they were working together. In fact, they thought he might be the better of the two when they worked together. And obviously, some issues took a while to get Dragons. Yeah. Chad said to Maggie, he goes, one of them won the Preakness, and the other one just broke his maiden for 20. It's a tough game. I don't know. I'm sort of laughing because I remember a situation where a few years ago at Saratoga, Chad Brown won with a drop down, and Rudy claimed the horse. And I happened to be with Chad Brown, and Rudy came to him after the race, and he said, "Did I steal one from you?" And Chad said, "No." And I saw the horse I saw the horse in the horses I was looking at pedigrees, and the horse was a half to horse, and I saw its PPs, and never won for Rudy. Anyway, I've got him second. I'm not going to be surprised if he wins. He ran as well for Rudy from a figure standpoint as he did for Chad, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Duke of Gloucester has now found himself with 3-4 wins lately.
He's improved a lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, greatly.
Does that reflect well on him, or is that more of an outside situation?
I think it's outside situation, the horse as a whole, but for the race itself, I mean, Face Barrio came back to win 2 out of that race, too. I mean, the drop is right. I guess he's going to be forward from the inside, too, in here. I mean, there's not much pace in here. Yeah. I mean, I'm not way against him in Memphis. At short prices, they were tough to take.
Yeah, I kind of misread a little bit. I was surprised when David made Memphis the favorite, and I imagine if he did, he's probably going to be right, or at least close to right. I thought maybe moving up and changing barns, he wouldn't take as much money. My feeling with Memphis was, and we'll show the race where he finishes third. I wonder if after this race was over, Kendrick said to himself, maybe I shouldn't have been as aggressive as I was with him early. Because as it turned out, he kind of isn't that kind of horse, and he was close up, he dropped back, and then he came again at the end. He's also Memphis, and he's no bargain, but I thought he was a horse that ran a little bit better than it looks. And he was taking a sharp drop that day, so I put him on top, but I don't have any great love for him.
Yeah, that race was a weird race, too, that day. Sarah and I were on that day. We were talking about that, too, just how it came up weird. The pace scenario was race, and Proven Hope and South Street, and I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to be forward either. It's the
first time since his maiden win. I guess he was forward that day, so you can't really knock Kendrick for it. I think ultimately he might have been better if he waited a little bit.
Yeah, he stopped running and he came on again. It was just a weird trip for him. Just a little inconsistent. Wayne Potts is going well too. I mean, it's not like Linda wasn't going well either. I mean,
so what's the Flash Kiss story?
It's funny, learning so much as I've learned from being here. Looking at this horse in the paddock a few times that I've seen him, he does look like he wants to go a little bit longer. I know he's got those weird kind of loping.
Does those G2s love to stretch out?
At least the dam one going long. I mean, at least I got that a little bit.
Who was the dam? Who trained the dam? Do you remember?
Lipstick Traces was.
It's not a Chad Brown.
No, it wasn't a Chad Brown horse.
It was trained, but it's not this horse.
Yeah.
Because there's a funny story involving somebody swearing on America's Day at the races, but I don't think it was Lipstick Traces.
Oh, okay.
It was a similar name. Somebody not named me swearing on the air.
Yeah, no.
Somebody that never was on the show again, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
All right, you digress. No, you know what? 2 starts back with this horse. This horse got off to a bad start. The race was really live, I thought, and he was the only horse to finish that day, too. That pace kind of held together on November 17th. There's a 3 next out winners and a couple of thirds in there. John Terranova's got good numbers. The stat I found for John was 6 for 25 with first-time routers stretching out. So he's got good numbers there. Face Barrio wired the field last time. I think the mile's going to suit this horse just from a grinding standpoint. He's got to find a little bit more speed for me because he's kind of been back in races, but I think the mile's going to help him in here. I thought he was going to be a big enough number to take a shot with in here.
Listen, I've given up on him. I tried him a couple of times, and I've had enough of him after his last couple races, but I'm not going to be surprised by any result. I have him third in this race. Yeah. You have Collect for Mike second. I didn't get him, but I didn't really get it. I'm not going to knock anybody.
It's just a weird horse. I don't think he liked the kickback last time. Maybe one more shot going long. I know his big win was in the slop, which bothers me a little bit, but I'll give him a shot stretching out to the mile.
Yeah, it's hard to be overly enthusiastic about anybody in here, and therefore tough to be overly critical of anybody either. Race number 2. You went to the 3 Diamond Collector. You better hope Rob Atras finds the answer to this horse because, man, she was awful last time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she can run anymore. I mean, she was terrible, but she was hard sent, and speed did well that day. I mean, I think part of, and again, this is another discussion we had during the month of December, was you have to question some of the way that the track played and the results you saw, and you have to wait and see how some of these horses come back because people jump right away. If they see a race go wire to wire, well, that's it, it's favoring speed. I don't feel that way. She's not a mile horse either, so 2 starts back, I don't really hold against her. I'm just hoping she gets back to one of her better races here, going 6.5.
Yeah, listen, I've got her third. I certainly respect the fact that she's going to Rob's barn. She's just a horse that just has kind of lost her form. And her last race is a funny race because I think that was a day where a lot of riders stayed away from the rail. How bad the rail was, a little hard to judge, but you might have wanted to not be on the rail, and she wasn't. The winner of the race, what was her name? Swedish Sugar?
Swedish Sugar, yeah.
She was an interesting horse. I remember David Aragona liked her. I remember I was talking to him before the race. I was off, and his feeling was that she was kind of the sneaky speed in a paceless race, and I think it was a no-speed race in Time Forum US. And he thought she'd be a square enough price. She ended up taking a ton of money there. And one of the reasons I mean, we both agreed was we didn't like Diamond Collector. So it turned out the pace got kind of swift, and she wired the field anyway. There just wasn't much in there, and the public and he were right in sort of betting on her. And I think that comes to, Simple Sugar, who I think does make a certain amount of sense in this race, Simple Sugar. But at the end of the day, I'm just wondering if that was a terrible race. And my feeling is I don't want anybody coming out of that race.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't think the race was that good on its face. And really, I mean, I know that Swedish Sugar wired the field last time. It's not like Simple Sugar wasn't up close and didn't have a chance to kind of reel her in either. I mean, a lot of these horses are what they are at this point, and we've seen enough of them to know where they're at. So sometimes the dynamics doesn't play as much, but I didn't think she was fast enough, honestly, to win this race.
I'm just going to stay away from horses out of that race, just in general principle. I thought it was a terrible race. It doesn't make me end up being right. And obviously, Cupid's Girl is the center of this race. But I'm never surprised when David Jacobson wins. But often the worse they look, the better they seem to run, the more random they seem to be. They're horses that occasionally have good efforts, and they seem to run it one day, and they're not reliable. But claiming this horse for 25, the horse doesn't run well for Jimmy Ryerson at 3-1, and then he drops it in for 14,000. She may well win this race because of who she's facing, but I'm not putting my money on her.
Yeah, and I feel bad because if anybody was listening the month of December, I put Jimmy Ryerson in that slump. Picked every horse that he had, and he just
I'm sure Jimmy's not holding it against you.
Yeah, I'm sure too. And the other problem I had with this horse is, too, the rail was good on November 19th, and she spent quite a bit of time on that rail, too, and she really didn't do much running in there. So, I mean,
she was terrible
last
time.
She was terrible.
Absolutely terrible. I mean, she could bury this field, but...
Yeah, and David, I had looked up a stat for David Jacobson. 3 for 24, 7 in the money, $1.42 ROI. First off the claim at Nyra Sprinting on dirt the last 5 years, and that kind of turned me off a little bit.
It's really only the last year.
Yeah, last year. So yeah, you're right when you think about it. But for me,
big sample though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know the blinkers go on today. I mean, show a little more speed maybe with the blinkers on. I'm not sure that in the drop down. Maybe they're going to try and get her on the front end. But for me, I kind of just. I was leery she can win, but I was just leery taking her.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to be in front of War Tap here. But I took Jackson Avenue because she's a significant drop down. But I don't think she's a massively negative drop down. She's a horse that tried to run in a quarter in Saratoga, and I don't trust her form at Nyra tracks. She's a horse that's obviously run significantly better at Finger Lakes than she's run at Nyra, and I think there's a chance that she's just not going to be that competitive. But I'm looking at this race, and it's like, I don't want the horses that come out of the Diamond Collector race. So now I've eliminated half the field.
Yeah.
I can't pick Cupid's Girl on top. Am I supposed to pick War Tapped on top? Under the most optimal circumstances, last time when Speed did fairly well and the rail was good, she completely stopped in the stretch. So why am I supposed to go to her again? So I'll take Jackson Avenue, drop it down with Jackie Davis, that maybe she could get back. I mean, she's not going to run her 70, but maybe she could somehow run in the high 50s to 60 and be good enough.
Yeah, and she could run better than she did last time. She got caught wide last time. I picked the winner on top.
They were all wide.
Yeah, they were ridiculously wide that day. And Lady Mines now put together 3 in a row.
She had no chance in that race.
Yeah,
I mean, that race
not
is
at
like
all.
a stake race.
Yeah, compared to what she's facing today. So
and even 2 back.
Yeah, I'm not against her. I have her second in here.
Yeah, I thought that she maybe the class drop would help. Race number 3 as we come along. I think I'm Buzzy is kind of the horse to beat in this race. The problem with I'm Buzzy is I don't know how much pace she's going to get to run at in this race. Pat Reynolds' horse has been running well, and I don't want to be overly tough on her last race, but Pat is really dumping her in here, and she's going to get claimed in all likelihood. And I feel like that's a bit of a negative because if you look at her form 2 and 3 back was good enough that she shouldn't be in here. Then she runs so badly and Pat drops her, but we'd both have her second.
Yeah, she can win. I mean, she did have legitimate trouble at and after the start last time, and she ran against much better. You look at the horses she's run against, too. She's run against so much better
But then he drops her with that trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, we went sort of different. I mean, I went totally different.
And I will say one thing for Pat Reynolds. It's not a massive sample size, but 50% drops in the dirt for Pat Reynolds. He's 1 for 13, 30-cent ROI. He's got a 4th at 8-5. Now, most of them were somewhat bigger prices, but it doesn't. Pat's a trainer. It just feels like he's dropping for a reason. And as the likely, I would think, favorite, I'm going to go in a different direction. What do you like about Killy's start?
It's what, again, we just talked about last race with David Jacobson and some of his horses that he brings, and sometimes they don't look right, sometimes they look right. I feel like the drop is going to suit this horse, and Whistler Style was another Jacobson horse, was 4th out of that race, came back to win last week, ran well. And I know it's on grass, albeit, but horses like Paper Mansions, 4 for 5, and Boston Princess is 1 now on synth coming out of those races. I think the pace is going to hurt this horse a little bit, but I'm still hoping for a good effort on the drop in here for her.
The problem with her, and I'm glad you brought up, what was the name of the Jacob's horse who ran fourth in her last race?
Whistler Style. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you brought her up, and I'll get to her in a second. Is this horse has never shown an ability to run in the dirt. Doesn't mean that she can't win here. Once again, I'm never surprised by David Jacobson horses, and in this race, I'm not knocking her. But I was looking at the last race, and you're right, that Whistler Style ran fourth in there. But Whistler Style is more of a miler, and Whistler Style was stretching out to a mile, and this was a 6 furlong race. This was also a race that completely fell apart. So I guess with Whistler Style, the argument was she was going to want more distance in her next start, and that was a race where the favorite didn't show up at all, Freudian, and it sort of left the field in shambles. While this is a little bit more of a tricky race, she didn't do any running last time. That race was just falling apart, and she was fifth because they were going backwards. She wasn't going forward. And she's not my cup of tea in here, but I'm like I said, Jacobson's horses are random. I'm always scared to go against them. But I thought it was a very different story than the other Jacobson horse that ran fourth. We'll see. You know, Jackie the Joker is a horse that I think is very dangerous in this race. And you look at her last race trying to go a mile, kind of a ridiculous spot. And with the scratch of the number 8 in here, she's kind of only got Beautiful Karen to deal with in the front end. And getting back to 6 furlongs, I just think she's super logical. And you look at her and I'm Buzzy as the sort of logicals. I'll take the one that's more forward, right?
Yeah, and I probably should have, after Slack Tide scratch, moved her up a little bit just because of the factor that now she's going to be she's going to be sitting off of Beautiful Karen probably. She wants no part of the mile anymore. Like, she doesn't want to go that
She lost to Whistler Style.
Yeah, and the drop and the cutback, they're realistic for a horse who's either going to be close to being on the lead or getting first run in here, so she's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with her, but I think that she is.
I think she's more dangerous with
Listen, you have
Slack
her fourth, I have her third. It's not a great story. As far as Midtown Rose, I'm just looking for somebody new and different. And I like the fact that Chris Englehart claimed her because she doesn't look that appealing, and Chris claimed her. I think it's a positive trainer change, not knocking Michael Moore, but Chris Englehart's a dangerous trainer, especially around here, off the claim at times. And I thought it was interesting. He claimed her. He moves her up. He's not looking to drop her and just try to get a win or try to get rid of her. And I thought she's kind of a new face here. I'll give her a break for her last start. She's got back races that are pretty good, and I'm going to hope she gets back to some of her better form. And I just wanted her kind of as a new face in this race. I thought she was interesting.
No, she's definitely usable as a price, and she was in chase mode last time. The winner just whistled away from that field and blew them out. So
that was Jacobson.
For me, St. Eros' girl.
Yeah, it was, right.
So for me, she figures at a price in here for sure. And I like the fact, as you said, that they moved her up in class.
I think her Saratoga effort when she ran third that day is good enough to make her a major player in this race. So I'm hopeful that she can get to that race. We'll take a break after the next race, the fourth race on the card today. And I see that you and I agree in this race. And I have one opinion here. Katie Davis needs to be aggressive. This is a horse that has never run well without the lead.
Yeah.
And when she's been on the front end, she's run some very, very game races. I know she has the win against Try It Again, but she has that second at Saratoga at 34-1, where she got involved in an extremely contested pace that day. And the favorite in there, I believe, was a favorite for Todd Pletcher. Got a perfect trip and ran her down, and she was very game to be second in there. So I'm just hoping that Katie puts her on the front end. If she puts her on the front end and she loses, so be it. But if she's not aggressive with this horse, she's not going to win, I don't think.
Yeah, you have to go with what is the best way in staying forward and going forward. And this horse is inside, faster than pretty much all of them, and needs to go.
What price chance did she have last time?
Yeah, none at all. And I mean, she didn't get away good at all. And after that, there was really nothing. And this is a realistic spot to drop this horse into. And there's just one way. We saw this 100% the same way. Just go.
She's just supposed to go with her.
Go.
What about Fellini? The 4-horse in here. I'll show her race 2 back. I know she didn't run well last time at Finger Lakes, but I thought her race in Saratoga, perfect trip or not, was good enough to give her a chance in here.
It was good. I'm just not convinced that I'm going to see it again. Like, to me, that was like an outlier. You know, even if you look at the figure for the race, I mean, she ran that figure on the turf to start before that, but most of her dirt starts just aren't fast. I mean, she does trip into she's had some good trip wins, but they're just not fast.
I agree.
Yeah.
I thought that she had a chance off of this effort, considering who's in this race, because there's just not, I don't love Rosie Byrne. I'm not going to be surprised if she does well in this race. And she did run reasonably last time, but most of the time she just runs relatively slow figs.
Yeah, I mean, she drops again. She's back in for the claim. She spent the entire race on November 19th on the good part of the track, and she still didn't really fire. I mean, she got beat 2 lengths, but it wasn't like she was threatening 2 lengths out of it. I feel like there's a lot of horses, and we have this discussion a lot of times in the winter. You start to see these levels. You see a lot of them, and you've seen what they are at this point, and their figures don't really change. They'll jump up and give you maybe one really good race, and then it's an outlier of everything else they've run. So
you got to find them when they're outliers.
Yeah.
What about Lincolnville Beach? We both have second.
You know, I'm thinking maybe the slow starting with her is something that's helped her out. I'd like her to get away a little bit cleaner, but I think she's the horse from off the pace you'd like to see in here. So it's her first start on dirt. The sprinter, the Dam is a sprinter, broke her maiden over at Belmont, from what I remember going back.
There's plenty of pedigree to suggest that she could handle the dirt. If she can run as well on dirt as she runs on synthetic, she could be a player in this race, and she's a new face, and for that reason, I think it's just a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I like that Manny Franco gets the call, too. Maybe Manny will be able to get her out of the gate where plenty haven't been able to, that she's been slow in most of her starts.
See what happens in the race 4. Kicks off the late pick 5. The late pick 5 closes in race 5. We'll talk about that after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Paul Verderosa and Andy Serling as we come upon race number 5, which I thought was an extremely tricky race. You and I have managed to land on the same horse in this race. I want to start, though, by talking about Signal Corps, which will probably be the favorite in here based on the connections and the good figure last time. I'm not convinced this is a horse that's going to get better with distance.
Me either. When I was looking up the pedigree on this horse, I mean, the Dam never won routing, and then I saw none of the Sibs ever won routing, the siblings. I know this horse had a lot of buzz after that win, and that was a maiden win. And it was a
slow race.
It was a slow race, but to me, visually, the horse, the figure didn't come up good. I mean, but to me, the horse looked like the horse ran well visually. And then there was
don't lie.
What?
Figs don't lie.
Figs don't lie, yeah. So the layoff came. The horse didn't run well last time. You want to blame the start maybe, and then the horse picked up a little bit. I didn't see it. To me, I just didn't see it.
The argument is that he ran like a horse that may have needed a race. That he kind of got into it a little bit late. He broke a step slow, as you said, and you might make that argument. And he ran a 77 Beyer, which is good enough to be competitive. I think your question is how you feel stretching out. And looking up Todd Pletcher's numbers stretching out at Nyra, I found one. Todd Pletcher, second off a layoff, 6 to 12 months at Nyra on the dirt. He's just 4 for 20 with a $1.40 ROI. And out of town, he's 10 for 36. And while it's 28%, it's a $1.28 ROI. So these are very short prices that aren't running to their odds.
Yeah, and I wonder, too, if making up a little bit of ground last time after chasing, if it gave off the impression to a lot of people that this horse is going to want to close now at a mile.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes you fall into that trap as well, where you just think that this horse is now going to come from off the pace at a mile, and distance is going to help this horse, and I'm just not sure that that's going to. I mean, I threw this horse completely out. If this horse wins, I wouldn't be shocked I'll lose, but I threw the horse out at what's probably going to be a 2-to-1 shot in here.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dave's got him 3-to-1. I don't know. Listen. I mean, we look at Shapilkus winning last time at Parks. I'm not sure this horse, in my opinion, kind of should be the favorite in here. Can handle going long, has never run on the dirt against New York breds. This is the first time against New York breds in the dirt. I didn't really have a problem with the races this horse ran. Beat a horse that came back to improve the Beyer 3 points in the next start. The races are fast enough to compete. Not a lot of success for Guadalupe Preciado shipping here, but the reality is a lot of the horses he's shipped here have been long shots.
Yeah.
And this horse is not a long shot. I think this horse is just a very logical horse in this race.
Yeah, I had a tough time a little bit with this race, and this horse certainly figures. Even two back, people want to say he beat a horse like Laytown who likes to pile up seconds, but he actually fought off a few more horses in that race too to get that win. So against New York breds in here, the cutback to the mile doesn't bother me so much. Definitely a player in here. I can make a case for all 4 of my horses in here, to be honest.
Well, talk about the 9 Lock and Key, who you prefer a great deal to the 10 Leo and Royal Live a little bit closer.
I probably, in retrospect, could have moved the 10 up a little bit. The last race I thought was a weird trip for Lock and Key. I feel like this horse was climbing as if this horse just didn't care for the kickback a little bit. And then
he's run 10 times. Do you really hate it?
I don't know.
Did he run when he got clear?
Listen, he shifted in twice, but I think part of it was because he couldn't get out. And for part of the stretch, not all of the stretch.
But he got out.
But he did get out eventually. So he does have faster races. I'm hoping for a cleaner trip today. I thought the starts 2, 3, even 4 and 5 back are good enough in this race to get the job done.
I agree, and I thought his price would be okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I land on him, because I don't really trust Leo and Royal. I know he's run going longer out of town. And to be fair, he's run legitimate figures both times he's been in New York, and one of them's been a mile. And I think he ran reasonably well in that Bourbon Chase race. And Bourbon Chase, you know, he looked a little ridiculous out of that race, but he came back and he did run back to it. In fact, he improved, I think, 4 buyer points. So I don't think that he's impossible in here. It was a race where the pace held together fairly well. I mean, Warlow was the speed. Dr. Kraft was right on top of the pace in there at a big price. So it's not a race that fell apart. So I don't think that he was against it. In fact, if anything, Lock and Key was a little more against it than he was. I don't know that it was a major dynamics type race. I don't know. I just thought Lock and Key might be a better horse, so I put him on top. But I don't have a big problem with either one of them. The horse you have second, and I don't have in there anywhere, and he can win, is Alla. But I'm not sure. We'll take a look at Alla's last race. And I know Grandpa's Kid's a horse that improved for Randy. The 5th place finisher improved 4 points in there. And maybe he's just getting better for Mike Maker.
Yeah.
But he also has a little bit of a last time was the time look to me.
Yeah, I missed the boat. Kudos to Sarah, because we were on that day. She picked this horse, and I hated this horse. I didn't like this horse at all.
Whatever.
This horse just had that look. You know what? The 2 wins, they're sandwiched by a track that was against him on December 2nd. He's improved. I guess a fair question to ask here is, did he hit his limit? What last time? Or is he going to get better?
Well, is his limit good enough to win?
Right.
I mean, he ran a figure that's good enough to win this race, so you can say his limit. Maybe he's that horse, and he can win here off that race.
He's back with New York breds today, too. I kind of like that a little bit, and I figured he was going to be another horse that was going to be a mid-range price worth using in here if you didn't trust the 8 in here, and you definitely didn't like the 3.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this race gets bet. I mean, listen, can Amadeus Music get back to his good races? He was atrocious last time, but he certainly ran 2 races back, and he has run well in fast tracks. His last race was just so bad. This is an interesting race and a very competitive race. I just thought it was a tough race, and we'll see if you and I land the right horse. The question in race number 6 is what you do with Next. A horse that you've completely thrown out, and I've gotten 3rd, because from a speed figure standpoint, as we show his last race, and Risk Free, or her last race, finished 3rd, and Risk Free is fairly reliable, she's the one to beat, but you're completely against her. Why are you completely against her?
You know, she fought it out last time. She took that brief lead. She got nailed again. Speed was good on December 7th. I feel like she should have won that day. And listen, I had the winner that day, but I still feel like she probably should have won that day. Just got a dirty bob in that race. But I don't know, man. I thought
she was a very unlucky loss.
Yeah,
I
mean,
I think exacta, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like with horses outside of her, like Confirmed Star may show speed and may press her again. I mean, throwing her out, we'll see what happens, but I mean, I just thought she was vulnerable today.
Yeah.
I thought she was vulnerable today in this spot.
Right, no Risk Free got her 71, which she's gotten before, and she's run it. So I'm not going to knock the figure. I don't love Fra Diavolo, who beat her, and I bet Fra Diavolo that day she took advantage maybe of circumstance in there. I thought Speed was very good. I thought she may have been helped by the racetrack. I don't think she's getting the lead. I think the outside 3 horses are all faster than she is. And my problem with Nixt is the favorite is she's a turf horse. And are we still, just because of her last race, are we ready to concede that she's a dirt horse? And like you, I preferred Linda's other horse over her, La Gravana, who I like drawing outside. She's second off a layup. I like a little bit less distance for her. You, though, prefer Misintention coming out of that race, who's just, in my opinion, had too many chances, though she is seemingly in her better form.
To me, she was in better form. And last time out, I know, she had the trouble at the start, and Junior let her settle, put her in a good spot. She put in a bit of a run. She was fighting. She was trying.
Excuse me.
And I just feel like all things being equal that day, Misintention probably should have beat La Gravina. without the trouble. So I just kind of felt today, I mean, and she's had her chances, believe me. They start to lose me when they get to 10, so she's got a few more choices before chances before I kind of get off her. But for me, I saw it as 1s and 8s, really. So, I mean, we kind of saw it the same way. You have 8 and 1.
Well, I'm not overly confident. I'm not sure we're right about the 2, to be honest with you. I'm not convinced she's not going to win this race. I just didn't prefer her. I get it. So Jorge Vargas, wasn't he riding at Tampa?
Yeah, he was.
So is
down.
he
he's
left
here.
there to come here?
I don't know. He is here. There's no changes. I noticed that too. I did a double take because I thought the horse was going to be scratched at first.
And I thought I saw him riding at least one of the next 2 days. So it's not like he came up here. And why would he come if he's at Tampa? He was there yesterday just to ride Misintention. So maybe he's coming up. He's decided to move from Tampa up to here.
I gotta see maybe Saturday, maybe something in the stakes. I didn't look at.
I don't think he's coming on a Thursday to ride in the Saturday stakes, but anything's possible.
You never know. Yeah.
I suppose anything's possible. Nice guy. Okay, we'll see what happens. I didn't really want anybody else. Risk-free never wins.
Yeah,
she never wins, but she's made $265,000. I wanted to make a case for Confirmed Star, who I thought ran fairly well last time out. Did stumble, but didn't really get cost that much by the stumble at the start. The problem is the figs are just too low for me to take her.
Yeah, they're a little low. I do like
though.
Yeah, I like that she does take heat though in her races, and she does hang around late for the most part. But like you, I just feel like she's a little bit slow. Like, as far as figure standpoint.
Race number 7. Looking at race number 7, the horse that has the most stake-faced horse and probably run some of the better races is Stonewall Star. Now, she comes out of a race, we'll take a look at it, where she ran 3rd, Royal Poppy ran 2nd, Rachel's Rock, I don't know exactly where she came up with this race. I think she's very dangerous and an extremely logical horse in here. I would prefer a horse that drew more to the outside, which is why I went to the 7, but I don't have a knock on Stonewall Star.
Yeah, I don't either, and in some ways, she's the horse to beat in this race, I guess. The talent's always been there. I don't know if being inside is going to help her today with the other speeds that are in the race, because really, she's not a rating kind of horse. She just wants to go. But, I mean, she's accomplished and the talent's there, and she's a good New York bred horse. So, I mean, I don't have any knocks on her other than I just don't like the draw for her, and I just think there's other speed. She can win, but like I said, I prefer a couple of others.
Well, I prefer the horse that we picked because she's going to be outside of her. And while I don't totally love her at 7, she did win the Bowery at 7 furlongs and ran reasonably well that day and beat Miracles. It was okay. Just thought she probably needed that race, and I thought she was in a pretty tough spot last time off the layoff.
100%. The cutback to 6 is going to help immensely for her. I actually picked her on top last time, and she set a decent pace, and then she kind of just gave it up at the top of the stretch. But she needed the last.
I think she needed her last race.
Yeah, without a doubt. I agree 100%. Linda has good numbers.
And 8 broke is for Linda's in great form.
Yeah, that's one of the Kentucky horses.
What is your thing on the 5? Who's going to be a big price in here? Bank on Anna.
It's funny with Bank on Anna. She's tough to trust. But she's run well enough to win this, I think, at times in her career.
Usually in Saratoga.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's kind of...
Phil Serpy's going well.
Yeah, that's kind of like the one knock I have with this horse is that it's that. But, I mean, she's dealt with some layoffs before. I'm just hoping she gets back to one of her better races. I mean, she's going to be a price in here. Even if I could fill her out for an exactor, I would be. She's going to be every bit of 10-1, I think, in here.
Okay. What about Royal Poppy? Is Royal Poppy impossible in this race for Ray? She ran so well 2 back, and then she got outrun by Rachel's Rock and ran really well. I didn't think... her race 2 back's pretty good.
I think she's
in the
same,
or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think she's in the same spot tactically here as she was in the last race. I was skeptical of the figure she ran when she ran that 90, but she ran back to her second highest figure last time, and as you said, Rachel's Rock ran that race. She fits well here. I have a hard time believing her. You know what I mean? Like, I have a hard time just believing that the races are going to stay consistent for her. I could be completely wrong, but she does have a good outside post in here.
The horse, my feeling in picking the 1A 3rd as I did, and I think the 2 and 7 are much the 2 right horses here, is that Jacobson was scratched 1 after the entry, and if she was scratched, I wouldn't have her. And if she wasn't scratched, then she was scratched Starship Defiant. I would never bet them because I don't bet entries, and Starship Defiant's going to take money, and justifiably so. This is Taming the Tigress going back to Del Mar in July, 2 races back, where she ran a race, got an 88 buyer that would smash this field.
Yeah.
And it's not her only big fig out there. She's got an 84 buyer. She's run some fast figs. And even her mid-70 buyers aren't that far out of it. And while she didn't run well last time, she was chasing inside. I think there's a very good chance the rail was dead that day. That was a very good field she was in. And I think by herself, she's very interesting in here. I don't bet entries. So But I thought she was interesting enough and worth talking about, especially because she was down inside last time.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I wrote down I would like her better if she didn't have her entry mate in here. And there were 3 next out winners out of that last race, too. I know she's had a few issues. I read where David said that now she's going good again, and he's got her the best that she's been. So she very well may pop with a big race in here, and her best races would probably bury this group at this point with what they've been running lately. Unless
Her
downtown
best races make her very tough
Yeah.
in this race unless the others have improved, which they could have. Race number 8, one I'm not overly interested in. Will show, because I like the horse who was scratched, will show Needed losing a tough one last time. I thought Needed ran well last time, albeit with the flow of the racetrack, but I ended up scratching in this horse and saw no reason to really change my picks.
Yeah, just guys, it's 10-12-7-2 for me, not 12-10. Yeah, so, oops, sorry,
What?
I lost my mic.
Well, try to find it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think I scratched into 12-10 in here. Is it possible that Needed improved on a wet track? Possible, but, you know, was even money 3 races back, gets Lasix. My problem in here is, where else do you go besides the 10, 12, and 14 in here? I guess you can use the Chad Brown horse, but that horse didn't do any running, and it'll be overbet because of the Chad Brown barn.
Yeah,
But I just lost all my interest in this race. I thought Linda's first timer, Spicy Tuna, was dangerous. Horses scratched. I thought Nigeria, who I picked on top, was a very interesting horse off the debut for Andrew Lakeman. That horse, a vet scratch. So I've lost the juice I had in this race, and I end up scratching into the favorite. When I scratch into the favorite, it definitely dampens my enthusiasm for a race.
And for me, guys, it was 10-12-7-2. I'm sorry about that. It was 10-12.
Yeah, you're the 10 on top. Go ahead, talk about the 10.
So for me, I thought the cutback to 6 furlongs was going to help this horse today. Also, I thought that she finished up well in a race where the speed held together for the most part. She doesn't handle the mile, so I thought this horse was going to be a price. And I actually had the 11 seconds, so I kind of scratched into the 12, now moving up to second. For me, I thought it was 10s and 12s. I actually, going for Glory for me was an interesting horse, too, in here, because just doesn't care for the off-going. You could see it, you know, in the 2 starts, just wasn't really running well. I think the fast track's going to help today, and I know the race was slow 2 back, but Classic Diva wired the field that day, so maybe getting back to a fast track will help that horse for me. So I thought the 10s and 7s were interesting around the 12.
Fair. All right, I no argument with any of that. Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate it. You on again next week?
Next
I think?
Thursday with you, yeah.
All right, I'll see you next Thursday. I'll see you somewhere, anywhere besides that. Anyway, head over to Nyra Bets. You're not a member of Nyra Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code MATCH200, and we will match the $200 of your initial deposit. There's no show today. I will be up here between races doing prattles. Maggie is away, but you're stuck with me during the afternoon. You're also going to be stuck with Chris Griffin. He'll be up in a moment with a reprise of Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.